This is a GK Media podcast.
This podcast is part of the GK Media Studios Creators Network, helping people tell their stories. Become a storyteller today and learn about our podcaster network at gkmediastudios.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wellth Talks with myself, Garry Kelly of GK Media. We got the legend himself, Niall Leyden of Atlantic Wealth Management. All the focus and pressure is going to be on Niall for this episode. And we got Pádraic Máille of Smácht. And the reason all the pressure...
Sorry, I was yawning there. Yeah, it's so nice not to have to do anything for once. Yeah.
The reason all the pressure's on Niall is before we started, he handed me these notes because we had decided what we were going to talk about. And if anyone wants us to talk on a particular subject, do send us in your ideas, because basically all the episodes that we focus on, all the themes of each episode is based on the questions and the comments people are sending in to us through social media. So someone had spoken about innovation, and this word was overused a lot during COVID. And Niall kindly showed me a series of notes, and I said, "Oh, this is brilliant! Now I can use this to start off." But he took the notes back. And
you can have them. You can have them because I don't know what they're.
Do a copy for me. I'm going to grab them actually. So I'm going to work off your notes.
Yeah,
I prepared last week. This is really, really good. So we want to focus on innovation. Okay, so you either innovate or stagnate. That's the message I want to talk about today. These notes that I put together, Pádraic, over the last few weeks, I think Niall just put his signature on them, but if you were born in 1900, your life expectancy back then was around 31 years of age. Today, it's 73 plus, depending where you live in Ireland. It's relatively quite high, thankfully. And the global population back then was 1.6 billion. Today, it's 8 billion people living here. That's 6.4 billion more minds, ideas, creators. And back in the 80s alone, we didn't have our Googles, our Amazons, our Tesla, our Meta, our Apple iPhones. Today, the world is dominated. No, it's not going to be, because you're reading all my notes.
No, I'm not.
Do I sound convinced?
I think we should ban notes from here on out. Go on.
Today, the world is dominated by global stock markets, global innovation, and we're very much, living in the digital era, technology, AI, and there's concerns with that as well. There's cybersecurity and so on. But there's a lot of innovation that is happening. And if we look at the bad times over the last go back to the last 20, 30 years, you had the dot-com bubble, you had the 9/11 terrorist attacks, you had the global financial crisis of 2008, which, we've spoken about before. You had the Eurozone debt crisis, you had COVID-19 most recently. You have the huge inflation taking place now across everywhere. I mean, it's nearly global. It's North America, it's Europe, it's Ireland and UK. And the thing is that we're always going to be faced with situations in life and in business. It's the journey of life. We have to just accept that nothing is ever going to go smoothly. And when things are going smoothly, that's when you got to kind of take note of there's going to be a bump along the road shortly. We don't know when it's coming or how we're going to deal with it. But we have to just keep adapting. And I think, Niall, in wealth management, that's the key, really, isn't it? It's having the patience to, fight through the storm as such, and just have that end vision in sight.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just that. It's. I suppose if you look at financial planning or wealth management or life, the world I live is very much time, money, and patience. Time, money, and patience. And if you think about it, I was asked there a couple of weeks ago, what is financial planning? What is wealth? Well, what it's not is a sum of money, or it's not a balance sheet, or it's not something material. I mean, it's freedom. Its greatest negative accomplishment is freedom from financial worry, because what we do in Atlantic Wealth is bring the future back into the present so you can do something about it now. So, okay, I started maybe 30 odd years ago, Pádraic, back in the mid-90s, and, the world changes, as you mentioned there, and you're right. I mean, look at the Apple phone, look at Tesla, look at all the household names. We didn't see or hear or think of any of these things growing up. As you rightly pointed out, poverty has it's still very prevalent in parts of the world, but it's a lot less than what it was. Life expectancy has more than doubled. And I'm very long on progress. I mean, I very much believe that progress is permanent and the declines are temporary. But in all the conversations I have with clients in terms of, The purpose, the plan and the portfolio are 3 pillars which we're very passionate about. Whilst there's all of these different crashes and booms and busts and bubbles, and you look at 9/11, you look at the financial crisis, you look at the .com, you look at COVID, the list goes on for 200 years. History often rhymes. And I think for me, it's much less about managing the money and it's more about managing the behaviours, protecting people from themselves. Get the plan right and stick to the plan. So in terms of innovating or stagnating, the conversations we're having with clients is, as best we can, is to keep it simple, Pádraic. Have a plan and stick into the plan. There's a really good orator in the UK, Andy Hart. He has a business called Humans Under Management, but his mantra is very much behave your way to wealth and don't misbehave your way to poverty. Following them behaviours and being, as you said in your last book, Pádraic, that whole buffalo mindset. In terms of if you see a storm coming, you talk around, people's tendency is to run away from the storm. But in financial planning, whether it's the children's education, whether it's, extracting money from a business for your third act transition into retirement, it's that slow, that 1%, the compounding, the Warren Buffett, the planting a tree, 1% every day, 37% in a year.
Explain to me the figures here about the annual return, the 6% and the 8% there.
Well, and the only reason I looked at that example there from a presentation a number of weeks ago. So if say for when I started back in 1998, just shortly after that, there was a fairly catastrophic crisis. It was the .com collapse. But I was looking at some examples of clients that would have, say, for example, invested 100,000 Pádraic in a very well diversified portfolio. So let's just, for simplicity, for a proxy for those that are investing, whether it's 1,000, 100,000 or $1 million, the MSCI World Index or the S&P, the Standard & Poor 500, which is the 500 biggest companies in the world, spread across all the sectors, all the regions, brilliant diversification across all the different classes. So 100,000 at 6%. That if you were to invest 100,000 with all of those crashes and all of them,
that once-off payment back in 1998,
100,000, at 6% today would be worth just shy of $500,000.
Wow.
And Pádraic, you talk quite a lot about compounding. If that was at 8%, which a lot of clients have, and you didn't interfere with it and you stayed out of your own way, it'd be worth 800,000 today. So what we're talking there, and that's not because of luck, that's because of patience.
Yes.
So I just think it's all around, Warren Buffett says the stock market is a device to transfer money from the impatient to the patient. There was a study done years ago that the best investors, would you believe, are dead investors. That if you have time, money and patience and your time horizon is good enough, wealth is inevitable in the long run. It's not easy because, our biases, if you look at our behavioural biases, we're overconfident in our own ability. We trade too much, we buy high, we sell low, and we have a tendency to chase trends.
Yeah.
And we listen too much to the media.
Yeah.
So when you bring it back to stagnate, in all of our businesses, and whether it's mastermind or keynote speaking or mentoring or marketing or wealth management or engineering or whatever it might be, if only you're selling pens, human behaviour never changes. And I think for me in our business, it's 90% about being a strategic thinking partner, managing the behaviours, getting the plan right. Markets will do what markets have always done. Thanks for but you know what, it's a brilliant one because Pádraic, you talk all the time around, that 1%, that little bit extra, going that little bit extra in business or with your family or with your clients. Just, we're all creatures of habit, ultimately. I had a lot of bad habits for a long time. I've been on a journey for lots of different reasons. I'm bringing clients on a journey. You look at the moment, a lot of people anxious, a lot of people stressed. I look back to the end of October there, which wasn't too long ago. Lastminute.com, people put money into pensions, company year ends, busy, but sometimes less is more.
Don't know, Garry. I don't know. I've been listening intently. I was at a funeral last night with Don Collar. Very, very wealthy man died in Galway. We were queuing up. The queue was going forever. And Don knows everything in Galway.
Yeah.
And I says, Don, do you mind me asking you, do you have any idea what he left? And Don says, I do. I know exactly what he left. He left it all.
Yeah.
Do you get it? I thought you'd laugh at that. He left it all, so he did. And so I don't know, isn't there a case to be made for blowing it like while you're here? And isn't there a case for living life? What? I'm being provocative here, and I absolutely agree with Niall. I think, and I will tell one other story on it, I think innovation while we should be doing it, Garry, and I'm agreeing with you, I think we're slow to change. I always tell the story of Maurice Fitz owns a wonderful pub called Fitzgerald's Pub in Castle Gregory. And there, myself and David Tarpey were treated one night, and he said, lads, I was coming back from Dingle to Castle Gregory on a very, very, very frosty night. And he was coming over the Connor Pass. And he said, whether it was the drink or the frost, I veered off the side of the mountain, and luckily I was able to hold on to a scabush. And the car went down and it burst in flames.
I'm trying to figure out what country you're from with that.
No. There's a reasonably good Kerry accent. And I says, what did you do then? He says, I looked up, he said, and he says, I prayed. And he says, I roared. He said, is there anybody up there? And next minute he heard... he said, Morris, this is the Lord speaking. Oh, fair play to him, I knew you'd come. And he said, Morris, what I want you to do is to let go of the bush. And I says, what do you do, Morris? And Morris says, I roared up again. Is there anybody else up there? Sometimes we get great advisors and they know what needs to be done, but we're very reluctant to let go.
We need to be ready for change.
We do. And I say that story, it's human nature. It's another beautiful story of Graham Greene, the journalist. And Graham Greene wanted an interview with Pádraic Pio. He would do or die but get an interview with Pádraic Pio. And influential and all as he was, it took him 15 months, over a year, to get the interview. So he slotted in the interview. On the day appointed, he had flown to Italy and he rocked into Mass where Pádraic Pio was saying it, and his interview was afterwards. And literally, at the end of Mass, he got up in the pew, he turned around and he walked out of the church. People asked him, when he went back to the States, why did you leave that church, having waited 15 months for it? And he said, I wasn't prepared for how Pádraic Pio was going to change my life. And I think that's a really significant statement. Sometimes we know what we need to do, but we're still clinging on to the old ways. I think it's a huge topic that we have today.
I was given a talk, another talk. That's why I have a podcast called Garry Talks. Garry just loves to talk.
Was it in the university?
Oh, it was another university, actually. Yeah, universities are great. I was talking about when I graduated from college, where I studied film and TV, and the 25-year journey, shall we say, of me setting up a production company and then going working in radio for a number of years and then setting up GK Media in 2012. And how when I left college, I said, okay, I want to do this, and how the path wasn't linear. It was full of curves and turns and twists and so on that I wasn't expecting. And I ended up going down avenues that I didn't intend to go down, but I learned so much from going down there and then headed out, and just the journey of life. But when I was talking to them, I became very aware of all the little mini disasters that I faced over that 25-year journey that took me off my path or might have misplaced me and so on, and that it wasn't a smooth journey. It's great to be talking 25 years later after you left college of what a success, life has been business-wise, and, all the great clients we're working with today and the variety of work we're doing and how privileged and honoured we are to do what we do. But then when you look back, my golly gosh, it was not a smooth journey at all. And I realised that we are where we are today because we've constantly adapted. It's a roller coaster. There's ups, there's downs. There's situations you're faced with that you don't want to face, but you have to, plow through the storm or the wall or whatever. We have to realize, I was looking back on notes recently as well of this kind of meetings that I would do with various CEOs every few months. And over the last 8 years, there's always been different issues that different people have had. And we were all worried at the time about COVID, and then we had settled in, and then there was something else, and now it's currently inflation and so on. But there's always going to be that. But we have to just kind of know what the long-term picture is of what we want, be patient, try and stay on the path as much as possible, and adapt to the ongoing constant changes that are going to come our way, because it'll never be a smooth journey.
That's a fact.
Big time. Big time.
Gary. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Are you going to give me standing ovation like I got in the university, or just nod and smile back at me?
No, it's a serious subject. In fairness, it is a serious topic. Yeah.
God, I've killed the conversation there. Is there anything else I wanted to say? I thought this was a great one as well, actually, while we're talking about inflation and so on. I was talking to someone recently in business, and he said, you know what I'm doing now? I'm focusing on profit, not growth. And again, sometimes we feel we're only succeeding if we're growing. We're growing the team, we're growing the premises, we're growing the products, the services, and it's like the chest is out proud because we're growing. But sometimes steady the ship and just focus on growth.
Knowing when enough is enough. I mean, when is enough enough? We're all dealing with clients, clients that have hundreds of thousands and millions, and they can't buy another tomorrow. I mean, in terms of developing a business, the brand, you have 2 arms, you have 2 legs, there's whatever number of hours in the week, 168. And that's a really important one because, Pádraic talked a few weeks ago around the worry formula. You were just sharing with Pádraic and me, there seems to be a lot of people very anxious, and I think we're going to talk next week around anxiety and controlling the controllables. But I mean, it just goes back to what you just said there. I mean, it's so prevalent.
And I was speaking to someone this morning who, you'd swear I don't do anything but talk to people.
You're fairly good at it.
But she was saying that she had 4 businesses at one stage on the go. And now she has 1. But she runs it really well. She loves what she does. She's less stressed. She's more time for her family, for her children. She's earning good money and she's happy.
And you talk too about that happiness and fulfillment, and you're chatting about inflation. I would bet my bottom dollar, and it's not taught in schools, there's a lot of people who don't really understand what inflation is. Would that be fair to say?
I don't know. But on the growth and profit thing, we had a great client, Adrian Haynes, great shopkeeper in Burren, County Offaly. I always remember he was on a Smácht programme, the first big recession that hit. And I'd ask everyone, how are you feeling? How's it going? And I always remember Adrian, he said, I'm not making as much, but I'm minding it better. And it's, I think it's a very nice way of putting flesh in what you just said, Garry. I'm not making as much, but I'm minding it better. Yeah, it's not all about growth, it's what you're taking back. Yeah,
exactly.
But we think you're doing a great job, Garry. And
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes we need to be a little bit...
We may need to call him Dr. Kelly, because I presume, and by the end of the year, it'll be Professor.
Prof.
I suppose all the universities I'm in might as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I get an honorary doctorate. Inflation, what is it to you? Because it's, again, like, we are getting a lot of concerns from people. So just to mention it here now, so AI is a big concern for people. They've said cybersecurity, economic inability, supply chain shortages, talent retention is another one, inflation, what's coming along in January in terms of auto enrollment and so on, minimum wages are going up. Like, they're all the concerns that people are having now that they're telling us. So talk to us, what's your take on inflation?
Well, inflation, I mean, and it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. So inflation at its very simplest level is rising prices. So we're in 2025, albeit nearing the end of 2025. If you look at inflation over the last, broadly speaking, 5 years, it's approximately 20%. So if the government a couple of weeks ago announced in the budget that we're going to take 20% out of your wages, there'd be mutiny. There'd be a war. So inflation can be your best friend or it can be your worst nightmare, but you really need to understand it because it's insidious, because it will erode the purchasing power of your money. Because ultimately, why do we work? The currency in which we transact, it's for our family, it's for our kids, it's for our mortgages, our loans, our livelihood. What are we trying to do? It's all about lifestyle, because outside of good health, what does anyone want? A good lifestyle. So big lifestyle, big number, small lifestyle, small number. But when we're talking to clients about inflation, and we'll just take a proxy of 3%, inflation being 3%, you need to be earning a minimum of 3% on your money, because if you look at the moment, the banks are coming in for a lot of flack. They're making record profits, AIB, Bank of Ireland, permanent TSB, the ECB rate, the interest rates have dropped. It's turned full circle, low interest rate environment. There's 170 billion almost here in Ireland on deposit, between personal deposits, corporate deposits, earning less than 1%, 2%, not keeping pace with inflation.
So people
effectively
who proudly
losing.
have a good chunk of money in a bank account and it's sitting there are actually losing money.
And what we're not advocating, because it all goes back to the plan piece, you need to have a short, medium, long-term plan, because there are a lot of bills, there are a lot of overheads, but inflation and taxes, and I mean tax too can be your best friend or your worst nightmare, because when we're filling out, which I'm doing every day with our team, expenditure questionnaires with our clients, the single biggest expenditure is what we pay revenue. And everyone has to pay revenue or taxes and VAT and so forth. But if you learn to control it, I mean, we're working with clients, there's entrepreneurial relief, there's retirement relief, I mean, there's pensions, there's PRSAs, there's master trust, but keep it very simple. There are so many different, the government have incentivised company owners, self-employed. We have a big problem here in Ireland. We talked with Aaron Gaynor, he's the president of the pensions management in Ireland, he's head of workplace pensions with Irish Life. Auto-enrolment is causing so much confusion in the marketplace. Now, there's lots of positives. There's 700,000 or 800,000 people going to be, we were the last country in the OECD to get involved, but like auto-enrolment will work for some and won't for others. And, we talk around AI and cybersecurity and different things, but I bring it back to the behavioural piece and just history has taught us we as humans don't tend to change. But it's number one, acknowledge and appreciate and understanding all of these challenges are there for business owners. We have them ourselves. You're juggling cash flow, staff, meetings. Am I making profit? Am I losing money? Can I pay the bank? I go back to what the old adage, you can't pour from an empty jug. We protect our companies, our cash flows, our people, but protect ourselves. So, so that was a long-winded way of answering your inflation piece, but it's really, really important.
It is really important. It is really important. I think maybe it goes back to the time of the famine or whatever, where in Ireland, compared to other parts of Europe, everyone wants their own piece of land. They want their own house. The idea of just renting an apartment for life, which would be the norm in certain parts of mainland Europe, would not be the norm here for Irish people. But it's also this pride of having a big chunk of money, whether it's hiding it under the mattress or putting it in an account. But they're not doing anything with it. As you say, with inflation, you come back to that lump sum 20 years later, it's actually not worth what it was 20 years ago when you put it there.
And it's very simple to fix. I mean, in wealth creation, I've seen extraordinary wealth with clients that I've worked with over the last 25 years. In starting at 100 quid a month or 500 euros a month, automate your savings, pay yourself first. Because if it's not automatic, Pádraic, it's just not going to happen. And everyone's waiting for the right day and the if but when trap. So I'd sit with Garry or somebody and say, look, you need to do this. So if what you're telling me is you're going to retire in 20 years and you want in today's terms an income of 50,000 and you're going to live for 30 years, putting 10,000 euro a month into a pension, it's not going to cut it. Yeah.
A year, 10,000 a year.
Yeah, a year. Yeah. But automating your savings, Pádraic, I mean, it's a very simple, whether it's a children's education, if it's automatic, it happens and it's a habit. So it just needs to happen on a regular basis. But that paying yourself first works really, really well.
Yeah.
But it's easy not to do too.
Exactly, yeah. So it's not that you just need to innovate and innovate. When I say innovate with your business, it's adapting to your business, but also, innovate with your finances. If you're in the position where you can innovate with what you're accumulating, do so, because otherwise it's one or the other.
Yeah.
You either innovate in life or you stagnate. And the businesses and the people who've done really well in life, if you look back over the last 20, 30 years of the era we're in today of digital technology, it's those who've constantly been innovating and adapting to the situations we're facing. Less laughs today, but lots of really, really good nuggets of wisdom and knowledge. And I hope people really take the great advice there on board. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Wellth Talks. If you like the show, please do like it or share it with someone that you know. It makes such a difference. And all the feedback we've been getting from people and the comments and the themes that they like us to discuss really energizes us as well. And we love it. So keep them coming. We look forward to you joining us again next Friday.
This is a GK Media podcast.